From the very first episode, I was reminded once again that zombies are actually supposed to be scary. Fear the Walking Dead was created by Walking Dead television writer Dave Erickson and Walking Dead comic book creator and writer Robert Kirkman. It's of course spun off from the TV show The Walking Dead, which was developed by Frank Darabont and currently being showrun by Scott Gimple, with Robert Kirkman serving as executive producer, which in turn was based on the comic book series that Robert Kirkman created and currently writes to this day, that's also still being drawn by Charlie Adlard, even though it was originally drawn by Tony Moore. Unlike the Walking Dead TV show, Fear the Walking Dead is the first Walking Dead show to not follow the comics in any sort of way. The TV show, with liberties taken aside, it still, for the most part, follows the same comic book storyline that is parallel to the comics in certain aspects, with a few detours and changes on the way. But this is a completely new series, a completely new storyline with all new characters and a very different setting. Taking place in Los Angeles, towards the inner city, we follow Kim Dickens' character, Maddie Clark, a high school guidance counselor, as well as her family. Cliff Curtis's character, Travis Manawa, who is also an English teacher at that same school. Travis and Maddie are not quite husband and wife yet, but they're fiancés. Maddie has two children. Nick, played by Frank Dillane, who is a 19-year-old drug addict, so he's the problem child. And Alycia Clark, played by Alycia Debnam-Carey, who is the younger daughter, who's still in high school, a teenager and all that. In the beginning of the series, Nick becomes the first person in the entire cast to discover the existence of zombies. After waking up from a drug trip inside a condemned building, he finds one of his drug friends or girlfriends or whatever, finding her feeding off the flesh of one of his other friends. So he's freaked out, especially since she looks like a normal girl, just partially bitten and bloodied up, and her eyes are different. She's a zombie. But he doesn't know what it is yet, because the zombie apocalypse is only beginning, and via Robert Kirkman's rules about the zombie apocalypse universe, zombie fiction hasn't been invented yet, so they really have no precedent for what to call these, what to make of this. And slowly, more and more, the members of his family discover that there's something bad going on, that society is collapsing because the dead are rising and walking again, and no one knows what to make of it. So they go out and group up with other members of their family as well as other people, such as Lisa Ortiz, Travis's ex-wife, and their son, Christopher, played by Lorenzo James Henrie, a rebellious son who kind of resents the divorce in the first place. They also meet up with Ruben Blade's character, Daniel Salazar, a patriarchal barber in the inner city who joins up with them and very much has a dark side and suspicious demeanor, along with his wife, Griselda, and their daughter, Ofelia, played by Patricia Reyes-Spinolda and Mercedes Mason, respectively. Now, another title of this show could have been While Rick Was Sleeping. If you remember from the original Walking Dead story, the comic book or the TV show, take your pick, they both follow the same idea. Rick was put into a coma after an incident while on the job as a policeman, and he missed out on the beginnings of the zombie apocalypse. He didn't get to see how it began. He woke up right after it sort of settled in. This series, we get to see how it all starts. We get to see the collapse happening right in front of us. So that was cool. It also added an element of realism to the show, as, or maybe it just spoke to me personally because this is Los Angeles, which is only an hour away from my house, so therefore it was close to home. But it felt a lot more realistic. I mean, the first episode features a scene in the city in which a crowd gathers to protest the police because a policeman was seen apparently shooting an unarmed homeless person, although Walking Dead fans figure out it was probably a zombie, but they don't know that at the time, so there's a big riot that breaks out after that, and big contention with the police force. That sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? Plus, it also made me scared for zombies again. Something about the Walking Dead TV show right now is that Well, the zombies aren't that scary anymore. Because some time has passed to the point where you see the zombies now, and they're so decayed. They're so gross looking. They don't look like normal people anymore. To me, what makes a zombie kind of scary is when they look like a normal person, except something's not right. Their eyes are discolored, their skin is slightly pale, but for the most part, they look like a normal person walking around until they get up close to you, of which by then, it might just be too late. By the time we get to Season 5 of the current Walking Dead TV show, we're already past that. The zombie apocalypse has passed by for quite a while, and the zombies look very decayed and extremely inhuman looking. It's almost cartoonish. As they probably would, but it doesn't have that same scare factor as, the way zombies look when things are just getting started. And this time, the zombies do look like normal people that just turned. Not to mention the first few episodes, as things are just getting started with the apocalypse, you get this sort of fear that it's treated very subtly, but this fear that the zombies could be anywhere. Because there's not that many of them yet. There's only so many walking around, and they could be walking around in plain sight, and we wouldn't know until one of them came behind us and bit us. And also another thing that makes this a little more frightening or nerve-wracking and suspenseful for veteran audiences like ourselves is that these people do not know the rules of the zombies yet. They don't know headshot equals instant death. They don't know one bite equals you're gonna die. They don't know once you're dead, you come back shortly afterwards, no matter what, if you were bitten or not. They haven't figured out these rules yet. And in the Walking Dead TV show, they figure out these rules by the end of the second season. But these guys haven't figured them out yet, so it adds to this fear factor of like, oh shoot, how are they gonna know to be prepared? How are they going to know that they should not go in there right now? They should not get that close. How are they going to get out of this without knowing the rules? If anything, I do have one gripe about the show. And it has something to do with pacing, but it's not what you're expecting. It's kind of the exact opposite of what people usually say when it comes to pacing. In that, I believe the pacing on this season, not necessarily the show, but this season was too tight. Okay? I felt it was too fast. It wasn't slow enough. Usually the criticism, especially for The Walking Dead in general, is that the pacing is really slow. I mean, while reading the graphic novels along with the TV show, it took him 2 years to get to this big storyline. It took him 24 issues to finally get to All Out War, even though he was leading up to it the whole time. And of course, Walking Dead, we're used to the slow pacing. We've had our gripes over the second season on how they are not leaving the farm just yet. This season of Fear the Walking Dead, though, I felt was too fast. Long story short, there was one storyline in the show that took up pretty much the second half of the season that went on not as long as it should have. In order to explain, I'm going to get into spoiler territory, so spoiler warning, here's the annotation with the time code below, so skip to that if you don't want to see spoilers. The first half of Season 1, the first 3 episodes, is about how everything gets started, how people are finding out about the zombie apocalypse, that zombies are existing, and they're trying to figure it all out. And that was paced as long as it should have. That was nicely done. The second half, on the other hand, is about the military taking over things. And it already feels a bit sudden by the time you get to episode 4, because in episode 3, that's when the military comes, and they're about to save everyone, although you get this idea that maybe that's not an entirely good thing, because of, the military are actually the bad guys cliche. Apologies to any military vets that are watching this. And then you get to episode 4, and it's a few weeks later, everyone's used to the military occupation, that kind of thing. And then you get to episode 5, where we find out about Operation Cobalt, and how they're all of a sudden gonna skedaddle and leave everyone. Actually, they're gonna kill everyone in the neighborhood. So that felt like a really sudden development. It didn't help for the fact that the character of Ofelia was going out with one of the soldiers for some reason. It just kind of happened. And while it made for an exciting season finale with, zombies overrunning the military base and everything, I felt that second portion, those 3 episodes were too rushed. They should have been given at least 2 more episodes to be fleshed out. I don't necessarily blame the writers for the pacing issue. I blame the network for forcing them into such a small space. Obviously, the writers wanted to get it to a certain point by the end of the first season, and then they're going to go somewhere into the second season. But when AMC first picked up this show, they picked it up for 2 seasons, mind you. They were really confident that the show was going to do well, but they wanted to repeat the success of the original Walking Dead TV show, which also had a first season of 6 episodes. So they wanted to do that with this one. They figured, give us a little taste, and we're going to be wanting more. Don't give us too much right off the bat, not until we know that we want more. However, I felt that the network should have given them maybe 2 more episodes to flesh things out a bit more. Oh well, that was my biggest criticism of this show. It's a criticism that I doubt will apply to Season 2, considering that Season 2 is going to be 15 episodes. If anything, you might see me a year from now complaining about how the pacing was too slow. But if they're able to pace it too fast for a 6-episode season, I sort of doubt that pacing's going to be an issue for Season 2 if it's going to be 15 episodes long. So, we'll see. Overall, this season of Fear the Walking Dead was a nice little bite into something new. It gave us something new amongst what we already knew. And if you have fear about whether or not this show is going to be any good, let me tell you, if you like the current Walking Dead TV show, you're going to love this new show. It's going to be fun. And I'm curious about what they're going to do in Season 2. I just hope that they keep it fresh and new, because right now the thing that's really keeping it fresh is the newness of the zombie apocalypse. But eventually that's going to settle in, and we're going to get to the point where Rick wakes up from his coma and everything's settled in. We're going to get to that point in the show, and this show's going to then have to figure out some sort of new way to keep this all fresh and new. In other words, keep this very different from its predecessor series. I don't want this series to just be simply The Walking Dead, but in Los Angeles, okay? I don't want this to be redundant. I want this to be very new, very different, a nice addition/alternative to The Walking Dead TV show. And I hope it keeps that up if this show goes on for a while, just like the current TV show. That's my review of Fear the Walking Dead Season 1. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.